And hey everybody, how's it going? This is Ryan from Cattler. I'm joined today by Charlie from Covey Rise Farms. Charlie has been with Cattler for about a year now, and we thought now was a good moment to bring somebody who's actually in the arena, who's actually boots on the ground. And thank you for joining us today, Charlie. How's it going?
Good. How are you, Ryan?
All is good. All is good. First and foremost, thanks for the time. Really do appreciate it. What I wanted to kind of start by talking about is a little bit about your story. So for anybody who knows, who's well aware, you can find a little bit of Charlie's life on Instagram at Covey Rise Beef, I believe,
Yep.
where they sell a lot of it direct to consumer, but also a little bit about their life story. And a little bit about that story is going from Ohio down to Kansas. And kind of, we'll start by asking you, tell us a little bit about yourself and your operation, and first and foremost, that big move, I would say.
Yeah. My wife and I were first generation producers. I really got into direct to consumer just as first generation producers. We needed a way to maximize our revenue in dollars. So it was kind of a way to capture a little bit more of the end dollar. Started in Ohio in 2015, really scaled up in about 2019. And from there, we really had scaled the business, but Ohio developed where we were. We were about 45 minutes north of Columbus, Ohio, and development there was really, really taking off, especially with the Intel project that was announced and all the tech companies that were moving into Ohio. They really started to make it where it was no longer going to be affordable to be there long term. So we kind of looked at an exit plan, and we had a really good friend of mine from college that farms in fifth generation out here in Sheridan County, Kansas. So we're in Northwest Kansas now, and he'd always kind of said, if you need an opportunity, we're willing to give it to you out here. And so we pretty much sold everything, packed up, moved to Western Kansas, and continued our beef program. Um, and really have the ability to scale quite a bit more out here. We took over about 1,000 head grow yard. We farm with my friend's family. We were able to buy some ground ourselves and custom farm, and working on renting farm ground as well. So now we background cattle on the commercial level. We still have our direct to consumer beef program where we raise prime Angus beef that we sell directly, and then we also farm corn and wheat.
Pretty cool. Awesome. Awesome. Just for curiosity, how long is the drive from Ohio to Columbus?
Uh can't remember how many hours, but it's 1,000 miles on the dot. It's like
Wow.
1,005 miles, I think.
Pretty cool. Awesome. And so before you were in Ohio, you were also doing the direct to consumer beef side, but you saw also the opportunity in Kansas as well, right? I mean,
Yep. Yep.
cool. And we talked about what made you want to start Covey Rice Beef, but also one of the things that we talked about, what I was curious about is you say it a lot on social media, is that you want your meat to tell a story. Kind of what is that story that you kind of want to tell, and how do you see that when people buy from you directly? What is how does that go?
Yeah, we try to educate the consumer on the beef production process and what goes into it. The fact that, beef production in general sometimes gets a black eye from environmental groups and everybody else, where they're trying to limit beef and meat consumption, but especially beef consumption. And we view it as one of the most sustainable and healthy products on this planet. Um, and we really try to tell that story. We try to tell it from a family's point of view, and especially from a first generation, the struggles and trials and tribulations that we've gone through to be able to bring that product to people's table. Um, so that's really the biggest story, is just our family's journey as first generation producers into agriculture and especially into larger scale beef production.
Cool. And so when it comes to for you talking about the beef industry and meat and cattle is something that you guys are very passionate about talking about. And in that industry, how do you see that kind of like collaboration between different, cattlemen or farmers in that area. Do you see a lot of collaboration when it comes to kind of what's new, what's coming out, helping each other out? How do you see that side of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, we live in a great community where people are very supportive. We have anywhere from large scale feed yards in our county, 60,000 plus head, all the way down to, smaller grow yards like ours and even smaller. So there's a lot of collaboration there, a lot of guys helping each other. Probably the biggest thing is, we're not a huge cow calf operation. We've just got our 30 or 40 mama cows, but we mostly bring in feeder calves for our beef program. And then our main cattle operation is entirely backgrounding. So, taking in guys, lightweight calves that aren't ready to go to finishing yards yet, backgrounding them up, getting them ready to go to feed. So we have a lot of collaboration there, both feeding our own cattle as well as we do quite a bit of custom feeding for other people as well. And weaning calves and getting calves ready to go and ready to go into finishing yards.
Oh, cool. And what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen in the industry, as maybe since you moved to Kansas, or maybe not make a difference, but what's the biggest, you know, challenges that you've seen in the industry, maybe even from the production side? The consumer side is always going to be different because there's going to be different variables like economic variables, inflation variables that kind of evade what we do, but ultimately evade what you do. But what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to face in this time, basically?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that faces a lot of guys right now is the equity and capital requirements right now are pretty daunting. Um, if we filled our grow yard entirely with our own feeder calves that we owned 100% of, before we even fed the first calf, you'd be looking at $1.5 million just in cattle. Let alone equipment, infrastructure, 6 months on feed, yada yada yada. So the capital requirements are pretty daunting, especially as a first generation and younger producer. So that's really where we, try to do as much custom feeding as we can early on, just to help with cash flow, help build our own equity, and rely on outside capital a little bit, and trying to start owning a few more of our own cattle. But yeah, the price tag on the capitalization right now is pretty daunting.
All right. Pretty cool. And if I have to say kind of the other side, opportunities that you've seen in this area, would it be it's going to be also the custom, I'm guessing, but then also the direct to consumer that you guys have already set up is going to be pretty much of the upside that you see.
Correct. Yep. And I mean, out here, compared to Ohio, where the population is quite a bit greater, we now live in a county with the entire county has 2,000 people and over 100,000 head of cattle. So for those willing to work, there's a lot of opportunity, from custom to farmers going to be retiring to, just guys needing help that you can make, extra income and extra opportunities. So from that standpoint, there's a lot of opportunity in this region for those that are willing to really work and make it happen.
And from the production side, what are the things that you enjoy the most about cattle feeding and basically the cattle industry, and on your side, what do you enjoy the most about it?
For me, I've loved being around cattle since I was a little boy. There's just something about it that makes us. They can frustrate the crap out of you, but they also can put a smile on your face, and we're really proud of the product that we're able to put out. For me, I enjoy the challenge of starting calves. I really like working with younger calves and getting calves weaned and on feed and started and keep them really healthy. And for me, that's what really gets me excited. And I enjoy that aspect of it. It's not for everybody, so it kind of creates our niche where we're able to get a lot of calves ready to go to finishing yards, and it's a niche that needs to be filled, and we're happy to do the work to do it.
Cool. And how have you seen the inception or the growth of technology and data into the beef industry? Usually the beef industry is 20, sometimes 25 years behind everything on the agricultural side. How have you seen that rise over the last couple of years?
Yep. So for the cattle R program is a great resource for us, especially on the custom feeding side, because we can track our costs and expenses and do our billing so seamlessly for our customers, and really show them full transparency of, hey, here's exactly down to the penny what it's costing you to put a pound on your cattle. and exactly where your break evens are going to be, and all that. And, the economics of this game are becoming so important that the tech side there really, really helps us. We utilize EPDs. We look at on our direct to consumer side. We average about 90% of our carcasses are coming out prime. So from the technology standpoint, looking at EPDs, looking at carcass characteristics, we've really been able to utilize some breeding stock that really puts us on the cutting edge there. We work with guys that are doing embryo transfer, doing all AI, really, really on the cutting edge of that tech. Some of the carcass data, unfortunately, that tech sounds great, but it seems like it's always 2 or 3 years behind. So by the time you get carcass data, you've already got 2 to 3 more years worth of breeding ahead of that carcass. So the data is always kind of playing catch up there. We use it as a guiding point, but we don't really always put a ton of merit in it just because it's already 2 to 3 years behind when you're looking at carcasses of
Right.
where the current breeding is at. But we work with Gardner Angus out of Ashland, Kansas. They're a great Angus breeding group. That's where a lot of our genetics come from, and we put a lot of just kind of faith and trust in what they're doing, and let them handle that side, and we handle just finishing and feeding those cattle as best we can.
That's that's pretty cool. I mean, it's good when you know that you're getting, good cattle, and just the rest just makes it kind of a lot easier for the rest of the ride. Ultimately, you just have to make sure they kind of get there fine and go from there.
Yep, exactly. We always say it's a lot more fun to feed good quality cattle.
Yeah, I would agree. And we talked a little bit before, a little bit about Cattler, but in general, when you think about, the technology and in this case, Cattler, I mean, is it something that was it something that you thought of getting? You could have said, "Hey, why didn't I get this before?" Or did it come at the right time for you? How was that like? Because usually, you may know you have a requirement, but the technology isn't really there. So how did that come for you and getting set up and all that?
Yep. So really, our move out here is what allowed us to go to that. We'd always wanted to have a feeding program, but where we were in Ohio, and we were first generation starting with nothing in Ohio. So we didn't have feed truck, we didn't have bunks yet, we didn't have any of that. We just we're pretty rudimentary, by our bootstrings out there. Whereas once we moved out to Western Kansas, everybody's kind of joked, well, we're in the big leagues now, and we've got 1,000 head grow yard, we've got roller mills, feed trucks with scales. We had all the
Right.
technology in place to then be able to utilize a program and work with a nutritionist that was setting up rations for us that then we could put right into the software and then track cost and all that. So it's made us a better producer, but we kind of had to have those other pieces in play before we could fully utilize it.
Pretty cool. Last question for you. What if you have somebody that you could say that is also wanting to get into the industry and like you, first generation, what kind of 2, 3 things would you tell them other than, hey, it's gonna be hard, but what else would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It is hard. It's not an easy industry. You've got to love it. If you don't love it, the hard days are going to be hard, and even the good days are going to be hard sometimes. Watch your cost. Try to keep debt low as you can at the first. But once you do have a solid business plan, don't be afraid to utilize operating lines and debt. Some debt. Just do it strategically. And right now the biggest thing is just keep an eye on cash flows. Try to live as humbly as you can, and put as much into the business side as you can. Because there's going to be good times and there's going to be hard times, and you got to be able to weather the hard times.
Awesome. All right, I'll let you go. What are you up to now? What's next on the agenda?
We're working summer fallow. We got quite out here. We do fallow ground in the summertime, especially on some of our dryland crops. So we're working summer fallow and getting it ready to plant wheat in the fall.
Sounds like a plan. Well, I appreciate the time. Thanks a bunch, Charlie, for the time. And yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Yep. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate the opportunity.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.